PSN goes global as we talk all things Showdown with the Sheffield Strikers. Learn how one Canadian-invented sport is exploding overseas. You won't want to miss it. Let's get started.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smythe and Nathan Clement.
Welcome into Parasport Nation. I'm your host, Alex Smythe, as always, joined by Nathan Clement. Nathan, are you ready to travel around the world today?
I cannot wait. I got my passport and suitcase ready to go. So let's hop on the plane and travel around the globe.
Yeah, it would be really challenging in the days before remote interviews to be able to coordinate these things. Even in today's day and age, you got to take into account all the different time zones and all that stuff. I remember doing an interview one time with a professor in Japan and trying to coordinate. That was a near nightmare, but that's neither here nor there. I'm excited to talk all things Showdown. It's a sport that, not a lot of people, especially in Canada and North America, know about. But it's huge in the UK, it's huge in Europe, so I'm excited that we can kind of explore that sport a bit more. But I'm also excited to talk about the Para Tough Cup because these are such vital fundraising opportunities. And Nathan, you got one coming to your neck of the woods in the not too distant future.
Yes, we have the Para Tough Cup coming to Vancouver in mid-October at the Richmond Oval, and it's such a fun and exciting experience. This is my third year doing the Para Tough Cup as an athlete, but it's a great event where you have different corporate partners, whether it's Lululemon, RBC, or really just members that are supporting the Canadian Paralympic Committee and the Paralympic Foundation of Canada, come together to try different para sports, but it's also that great chance for so many of us para athletes to reconnect and see each other maybe for the first time in the year, first time in a couple years, or just be in a group of people, because it's such a isolating thing sometimes, just being so in your sport. And when you're able to have everyone together, it just creates so many great experiences. And you learn so much more about different para sports or just the environment around your city and community.
Now, here's a question for you. You're getting corporate sponsors and partners showing up there. A lot of businesses bringing different groups to help raise funds for not only the movement, but for the teams. Do you have a bit of extra incentive? Like, do you want to blow either it's if you're like demonstrating to a corporate sponsor or maybe a potential sponsor for yourself? Like, is there that added incentive? Like, I want to put on a show. I want them to see how good I am. So maybe they throw a few dollars my way.
Oh yeah, there's a little bit of that, but I wouldn't say for like sponsorship. It's just that competitive nature and a little like inside the Vancouver Para Tough Cup scene. We have Michael Edson, the former swimming great. He comes in with one of the partners, and he's always one of the biggest fundraisers, but him and his team is built for success. They have training camps, they have tryouts, they have full-scale practices leading into the competition, leading into the Para Tough Cup, and every single year you can hear that noise, you can hear that chatter, you can hear a well-oiled machine at the Para Tough Cup, and it's exciting to see that competitive nature come out. And even at last year's Para Tough Cup, we had Lululemon playing against, I believe, another partner in para ice hockey. And right away, like in the first couple minutes, one guy on this other partner got a breakaway, and this Lululemon rep just went full gas into the sticks, sledding dive as this guy shot an open net, saved the puck on the goal line. She went flying into the net, knocked the net off its moorings, but goal didn't go in. And that's just the kind of level and intensity a lot of the partners bring into it. But for us athletes, it's fun to watch because we're mostly volunteers. We're mostly there to make sure everyone's having a great time, trying and participating in the sports. But when we do get on the field, when we do get on the courts, I played sitting volleyball last year, that intensity does come out a little bit. You can't hide it. So it's a great time.
Yeah, so obviously there's a chance, as Nathan said, in Vancouver, Friday, October 7th. And then they're also going to be in Montreal Thursday, November 6th. So be sure to check out all the action for the Paralympic Cup then. Nathan, we are going international today. We're going to the UK, to Sheffield, to have a conversation with Jerri and Millie about Showdown. But this got you thinking a bit about the best sports cities. So let's play a bit of a game. We'll offer up our takes on the best sports cities. We'll do it in 3 different ways. We'll do it the best sports city in Canada, the best sports city in North America, and then the best sports city in the world. I will allow you to go first.
I could say the biased answer to start things off, talking about Vancouver in Canada. However, I'm going to say Montreal. And there's a couple reasons as to why. You have the Montreal Canadiens, that storied franchise, the history there. But also that is the start of so many amazing Olympic moments and even like Paralympic moments for Canada with the Montreal 1976 Olympics and just that lasting legacy that's created. And as a swimmer, that's where a lot of the training camps would happen. But also so many of our other sports are there, whether it's judo, whether you go through like the soccer, the football, there's so many lasting moments and legacies in Montreal that I think gives it that number 1 ranking. But with bias, I'm going to say Vancouver. But I have to be unbiased in something as important as this and saying Montreal. But how about you, Alex?
You know, Montreal, I think, is the top of my list as well. I thought about, what other cities could you pull from? Like, we've had success in Toronto, not really on the hockey side of things, but in some of the other sports. I think it's just you get the major markets that there's just so many opportunities to win, but it's hard to ignore Montreal, even from like the amateur level, from the parasports side. There's just so many competitions that take place in Montreal. It's such a celebration of sport. The city just embraces it. Even like, I think Défi Sportif, annually. And it blows me away just thinking about it. So Montreal gets my vote as well. We're on the same page for Canada. But what about North America? This is where things might deviate a little bit.
I think, and I've kind of wrestled with the recency bias of the location, but also its lasting legacy in sport. And I think it has to be New York City at the end of the day. Just because you go through the history, that you and I are big soccer, football guys, what Pele meant to going to the Cosmos in the 70s, but also I'm not a Yankees fan. I don't like the Yankees. I'm a Seattle Mariners fan. But what the Yankees mean for baseball, what old Yankee Stadium meant, the history, the accolades that go on throughout that hollowed and storied stadium. And you even go over to the NHL, NBA, Madison Square Garden, the pinnacle of arena sports in North America. Just that kind of volume and the shadow that place casts, and you just go through all the sports. The New York Giants and New York Jets suck, but that's a discussion for another day.
And that is precisely why I didn't go with New York. I couldn't justify it. I also take into account the idea of the top sports city also has to have the fans to back it up. Montreal, we already highlighted, the fans are passionate. Another place that has passionate fans, Boston.
I knew you were going to say
sorry,
it.
I wanted to say Chicago. LA has a lot of championships, but the fan base can be passive. Boston, they're going to be passionate. They're going to be obnoxious when they're winning.
The most toxic.
But you can't argue with the New England Patriots, the Boston Celtics, the Boston Bruins, the list goes on. The Red Sox, it goes on and on and on and on. The number of championships in that city, the passion, the pride that they have. So Boston gets my vote for top sports city in North America. I don't like it, but that's just what it is.
Yeah, that was the one I was wrestling with, and it hurts me as a Canucks fan. It hurts me as a Seattle Seahawks fan to slightly agree with you, but it's Boston sports fans, as many of us know, they're passionate, they're toxic, they're loud, they're everything. But the States and even Canada have such a dark horse of cities too. You think of Pittsburgh, you think of San Diego back in the day, you think of places like even like Calgary, Edmonton up here in Canada. But once we go across the pond, it gets a little more interesting, especially what sports you highlight for what is the world's global sports city. So Alex, who do you think would take that mantle or take that flag or that captaincy of what is the global sports city?
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not sold on any one city. I mean, there's so many ones you could choose from. Obviously, London, Paris, even like a place like a Barcelona or a Madrid. Like if you look just in the world of soccer, Munich with Germany. But the one thing that sticks with me, every athlete we seem to talk to, there is always a special place in their heart for Japan and Tokyo. So that is actually where I'm going to go. I'm taking the actual like championships out of it, but it's just the passion, what I hear from the athletes themselves that we interview. More than any other city, they say Tokyo is the best sports city. The fans just appreciate the competition, especially in the world of parasport. They celebrate their athletes. They're superstars over there. They're not just for parasport, but for sport. So I'm going with Tokyo as the top sports city in the world. Nathan, what about you?
I love that answer. What Tokyo stands for, whether it was the Olympics, Paralympics, it's such a shame that they couldn't have crowds at those games, but their baseball scene, their soccer, their football scene, and just that love and admiration for sport is so incredible. But we're going to the Mediterranean for my answer. And you're going to see where I stand on the El Clasico rivalry. Right now, I'm going to show a little biasy here. I said I wasn't earlier, but I think Barcelona is that city. What Barcelona has meant for the game of football, but also in the European basketball scene and just sport as a whole. You go back to the 1992 Olympics and Paralympics that happened in that city and in that region. But there's nothing like the bright lights of the Camp Nou. There's nothing like Barcelona with Ronaldinho, Messi, Neymar, when they had Suarez back in the day. The world revolved around them. And that's why I think Barcelona is the global sports city.
Well, Nathan, I respect your answer. Just know you are no longer welcomed in Madrid. So you can cross that city off of any future travel plans as a result.
Also, a fun fact, one of my biggest cycling rivals is from Madrid. So
yeah, you're just going to deepen the ties of that rivalry. But the whole thing that got us thinking about, international sport is the fact that Showdown, which is a Canadian invented sport, it is a fast-paced sport for the blind and partially sighted athletes. It's played on a table with raised sides, and you basically use paddles with a noise-making ball. It's kind of that beautiful blend of table tennis with air hockey played into one. All the athletes are wearing eye shades, and it was invented by the IBSA back in the 1960s and has since kind of grown globally. It hasn't quite taken off in North America to the same extent that it has in the UK and Europe. And so that's why we are bringing on two members of the Sheffield Strikers Showdown team, Jerri Mather and Millie Britton, to share some love for the sport of Showdown. So here's our conversation with Jerri and Millie. Millie, Jerri, thank you both so much for joining us today.
It's okay. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
So, Jerri, I'll start with you. For people who may not be familiar with Showdown, like how would you describe the sport to them?
It's best described as like a hybrid between air hockey and table tennis.
Millie and Jerri, thank you for joining the podcast today. This question's for you, Millie. How and when were the Sheffield Strikers founded?
I think they were founded, 2 years ago now, but we joined a year ago. I think they were founded at the Blind Centre, actually, the Sheffield Royal Society of the Blind.
And so for Jerri, I want to find out your connection to Showdown. Like, How did you find out about the sport, and why did you want to join in Showdown?
Originally, it's just for the social aspect from my local blind centre, from the Sheffield Royal Society for the Blind. And it just like was something new, something new to try. And then the adrenaline and everything hooked me into the sport. It was easy to pick up.
Same question for you, Millie. What led you into the sport of Showdown?
So I found out about Showdown through Jerri. I met her on TikTok when I first lost my eyesight and I was trying to find other people like me. And she introduced me to the centre, to other blind people, and to Showdown and said, come along and meet people who are like you and also try this sport out.
And Millie, I want to follow up on that. What did it mean, and how did it feel that once you finally made that connection, not only with Jerri, but other members of that community, and kind of found a space that you could connect with other people who live with vision loss?
It was great because at the time I was not even blind for like a year yet, so I was still in that grieving phase and still being angry and depressed about it. But when I was able to meet people like me and talk to people and realize I was still able to do things like play sports and everything like that, it was great.
That's really amazing. And for Jerri, what does a typical training session look like for the Sheffield Strikers and for yourself?
So we have 2 separate days, one on a Thursday, which we say is the fun day. So that is where anyone can attend who is visually impaired and just play games of Showdown. No specific sort of training element to it, just play, see how many games you can win. And then on a Friday, I run the sessions where we learn the actual skills and fundamentals of Showdown and do the more nitty-gritty training with the people who want to be on part of the team, who want to compete in the nationals, which our next national tournament is in November in Birmingham.
And Jerri, I noticed you're wearing a jersey right now. Can you describe the jersey a bit for us?
So it kind of looks like the Union Jack, so it's red, white and blue, but it's in squiggle form, because I actually compete for Showdown internationally as well as nationally. I just came back from Prague for the Under-25s World Cup about 2 weeks ago.
That's amazing. And Jerri just mentioned it there, the international competitions. Millie, can you describe what some of the major tournaments are for the Strikers, but in the sport of Showdown as a whole?
So there's different levels. We have friendlies, which is basically other teams competing against each other. Then we have nationals, which is for all teams, and it's split into males and females. But within a nationals, males and females actually play with each other rather than separately. As in nationals, it's completely split. When it's international, women only play women and men only play men.
And I wanted to dig a bit deeper into the sport. And Jerri, you gave a really concise description on Showdown, but I was wondering if you could talk a bit about maybe the equipment that's used, describing the paddles a bit, maybe the eye shades, maybe the table itself, and then also the strategy in terms of when you are playing, how do you kind of get that advantage over your opponent and try to score?
Ooh. So to win a game of Showdown is the first person who gets to 11 points, but there has to be a 2 points clear difference for the winner. And the game is played using eye shields, as you were just saying. Mine are these, and they're glittery and blue because I DIY'd them.
They look very comfortable.
That means everyone has an equal playing field because, as you know, sight loss is a big spectrum and no 2 blind people see the same. So having this means everyone is the same. We also have to wear a glove because the ball that has ball bearings inside is also plastic. So we have to wear a hockey glove. My specific brand I use are the Bites. There's no specific Showdown equipment. We kind of have to get things that are more easy to buy. And then the bats that we use kind of look like a flat cricket bat, but smaller. And it is wooden with a rubber grip.
That's really amazing. And for you, Millie, is there a part of the game that you love to play, or even a style of play that you would describe yourself as? Like, what type of player would you describe yourself as?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think I'm on Jerry's level yet. I don't know. I get a bit aggressive sometimes with the ball. I like to kind of whack it across the table.
Well, hey, as someone who would describe themselves as also being aggressive when playing sports, I can appreciate that. I try to go with maximum power, not a lot of precision or finesse. So I appreciate that full-on aggressive style. Could you describe, Jerri, like the landscape for Showdown in the UK and then more broadly Europe? Because even though the sport was invented in Canada, it's a Canadian sport, it really doesn't have much of a presence here. So, like, what is the presence like in the UK and then Europe as a whole?
UK is very new to the sport, like only 2 years it's been around. It started mainly down in like London area, and then it's starting to spread its way across the country, and we've got Sheffield, and then we're getting places up in Newcastle and Scotland, so it's travelling around. But the sport seems to be more prominent in eastern like areas, sort of like Slovakia, Czechia, Poland, that sort of place is very popular, and they've had the sport for well over 20 years.
Well, that's really amazing just to see the growth, obviously, in the UK, but how big it is in Central Europe, but also Eastern Europe as a whole. And with that kind of growth, but also that international scene, this question's for you both. Do you think it's a possibility of Showdown becoming a Paralympic sport down the road?
They are looking into that, actually. I think you have to have a certain amount of countries playing it before it can actually qualify. I'm not quite sure how many it is. I think it's 20-something. Can you remember, Jerri, how many it was?
I'm not sure, but I think we're only like a couple away, which really surprised me when I feel like the US has no sort of presence in the Showdown field, considering how big this country is. Like, I went this year to the US and it's so much bigger than the UK.
Well, and it really, from my experience and my first exposure to Showdown in and around different kind of community centers in Toronto, it's like it starts really at that grassroots level, and it's just an opportunity for another adaptive sport or activity for people with vision loss. Like, obviously goalball is kind of the most well-known one in our country, and then followed probably by like a blind hockey and some other adaptive sports. Showdown really doesn't get that attention, but it's like once you do demonstrate it and once you do bring it to these different organizations and events, it's like people really kind of connect with it, and it clicks for them. They're like, oh, this is a lot of fun. This is really, like, it's simple to play, but it's also, you can have a lot of fun and you can compete in it, which is something that's, as you had said, Millie, you found that opportunity that you could connect with something again. It was a way to kind of grow and find a place for yourself within that community. So I know Millie reacted to it, but Jerri, for yourself, like, what does it mean to have that community and that connection to a sport that you can really get passionate about? Because I sense your passion.
Yes, everyone says that. Like, I'm always telling everyone and anyone on the bus, be it at the shop, and like, this is the sport called Showdown that I play. Always trying to get new people to come and join, because our centre sometimes gets low on numbers and it's getting the word out there. But I'm just so passionate about it because, as you said, it's easy to pick up and it's very addictive. When you start playing Showdown, you just can't stop.
And we just lost Nathan for a second, so that's fine. I'll continue on here. I'm curious, like, for yourself, Millie, like, what advice would you have for someone who may be considering giving Showdown a shot or are curious about it, but they're not quite convinced yet that it's a sport for them?
Honestly, I'd just say give it a go. You don't know if you're going to enjoy something till you try it. And honestly, before I lost my eyesight, I was not a sporty person at all, and I hated sports, hated doing it at school, everything. But surprisingly now I love it, and doing Showdown has led me to doing more sports.
Yeah, because of me, we go blind rock climbing, I started going blind running.
I'm curious on a broader level, Jerri. Like, what is the scene like for para sports and adaptive sports in Sheffield? You just mentioned, obviously there's Showdown that you guys are connected in, but you also mentioned blind rock climbing and things like that. Like, what is the adaptive sports scene like in Sheffield?
There's quite a lot. We have goalball, we have tennis. Tennis is quite big in Sheffield, and also baseball. But also we do blind rifle shooting, which is actually a sport too, and archery.
That's really amazing. And that's really incredible, just the vastness of the sports scene in Sheffield. Now, looking more broadly and internationally, would either of you have a dream location that you would love to play Showdown in?
It's going to sound just cliche, but like in America, I would just love to do like LA or California or something.
And for yourself, Millie?
Ooh, maybe somewhere like Japan or something, maybe.
Well, we know from speaking to other para athletes, both destinations that you've chosen, when you're in that environment, it's really hard to compete with that. I want to get you both out of here on this one. Jerri, I'll start with you. Like, what do you think is when you think of Showdown, like, what's the one word or the one kind of main essence of the sport that you think really represents the sport as a whole?
Togetherness, because it's like everyone helps each other. It's not selfish. Everyone gives each other tips and advice on how to play.
That's great. And Millie, for you?
I'd say the same. It's very friendly, even though you are competing more one-on-one with people, even sometimes in your own team. Like at Nationals, me and Jerri actually had to compete against each other. It's still, everyone gets along. It's a really nice environment to be in.
Well, that's fantastic. Jerri, Millie, thank you so much for sharing a bit about the sport you're passionate about. I always love learning more and sharing kind of unique and different para sports with our audience. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
It's okay. Well, welcome to be here.
And that was our conversation with Jerri and Millie from the Sheffield Strikers in England. Nathan, some takeaways from that conversation. You just see the passion just Jerri has for sport in general and just the opportunities and trying to bring more people in to the world of Showdown.
I love how she showed the equipment, she showed the gear, and even showed the hockey glove, and how there isn't really a universal kind of equipment system at the moment. But this is a sport that's really growing in Europe, and especially Central Europe has it pretty well in their fingertips at this point. And although it's a Canadian started sport, hopefully it can expand. Hopefully it can really take off, as this is something that is very ease of access to play, to get involved with, and hopefully it can get that kind of scene and get the eyeballs on it that it deserves. But is there any big takeaways from that interview for you, Alex?
I just love the way that sport just kind of brings everyone together, regardless of background. The fact that, Jerri has been kind of connected to sport a bit longer, but Millie is a bit newer to the sport, newer to disability, but it was a connection point for her to find a community, to find a space that she could belong and experience her vision journey, to go through that and have fun and get competitive. I also love that, it's a small but mighty team, essentially, and it's a little pocket that shows, like, okay, the power of sport and the power of a community that can grow. And it's just, we've heard this story many times, and we obviously from a Canadian lens, but to hear it from England it's a bit reaffirming. It just goes to show that regardless of where we are, we're like, parasport in that movement goes through the same kind of growth potential and patterns, and you just have to continue to go and be passionate about it, have faith that it's going to grow, and spread the word. And in the immortal words of a very famous sport film, build it and they will come. And I think that's just kind of the mantra for Showdown on a global stage.
Exactly. It's across a lot of parasports. It's that build it and they will come mentality. And when you have ambassadors, when you have people as passionate as Millie and Jerri, it really helps that sport go forward, push forward, as it becomes that old saying, to use when you're at a table and you're that one table laughing, joking around. Everyone sees that. Everyone wants to be a part of that energy. And when you have ambassadors like that, it brings people in. It makes people curious, especially about a sport like Showdown. And the success that can come because of that is exponential. It's unlimited. It is really exciting to see what can happen down the road.
Well, I couldn't say it better myself. Why don't we leave things there for Nathan? I'm Alex. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.